Hello everyone, and I am Bosch von Ronsenberg of Delmaska. No, not quite, but it is the 12th month, meaning that we are moving into Final Fantasy XII music as a background. Isn't that nice? Well, yeah, it is. But we're here to talk about the brand new Warrior of Crystal, and boy oh boy, do I have stuff to say about this character. Before we get really too into it, I just want to say that this is one of the weirder Crystal characters in terms of what my initial expectations were versus, I guess I didn't hear, except through some comments, that he was going to have some ice debuff, he was going to have frostbite. I mean, it all makes essentially a fair amount of sense given, his element and the way ice characters have been trending lately. But now that we're here, I don't think I was quite expecting exactly what we're looking at today. So first of all, I have placed him on a Ice Elemental Mage team to get an idea of what his better stats would be. I don't think that the Ice Element is super great for mages still. It'll depend on how good the Vision card next week is, as well as the Summon. I know that the Ice Dragon already exists, but these characters are so focused on essentially what they are getting from their key espers. Like to this point, as a matter of fact, June benefited from her esper so much. Setia benefited from her esper so much, and now that we're coming in, Renan and so on and so forth. So yes, short of what you can see for the build here, Bahamut, the Ramu card, and the sub with the Freezer card, as well as his new weapon. So if we just take a look at that, 170 magic, 20 spirit penetration, and that's basically it. I mean, the book has a little bit of critical, it has some aim, which is going to be important, and I'm going to talk about that more when we get to TMRs and everything like that. But yeah, just so you can see what this weapon is like, this is a good one, and this is a great one to get for Rule too. Just 20 extra spirit penetration is not something I think Rule would ever say no to. So now let's show off this guy's stats. I'll give you a second to take a look at it and realize what the hell you're looking at. This build that they have gone with is just purely focused on magic. As you can see, there's a lot of sources of magic external here, so let's break it down. About 6,800 HP is really nice, as we're going to get into. Good amount of TP, good amount of AP, and yeah, that magic stat, that you are reading that correctly. And just so we can show what other units on my team is like, even with, well, as you can see, Yuna's taken a little bit of a jump as well. But these kind of stats are completely possible on JP right now and are only going to get more ridiculous as time goes on. I mean, even here with Typhoon, I mean, come on. It's crazy, right? 1400 attack Garble. Someone out there has got to be appreciative of some of these stats if we're just looking at big numbers. But this guy actually tops it, which is really impressive. He does give a little bit up in terms of speed, and dexterity's fine and all of that. And make no mistake, I'm not saying that he is bad at all. I mean, his stats are absolutely incredible, and as we're about to get into, he's much more durable than a lot of other mages. But let's talk about his TMR really quickly, because this is the other piece of equipment we haven't gotten into yet. It is an accessory. It is 260 HP. It is 4 defense, 8 spirit, 12 accuracy, which again builds on his weapon quite nicely. And his ability, well, it's a decrease of AP consumption by 25% for 3 turns for allies. And double cast, but not only that, it regenerates 10 AP for allies. This is quite the incredible piece of equipment. It's the opposite of bells in the sense that you are not getting, AP regeneration, you're actually getting an AP discount. And that's important for a lot of older units, for a lot of mid units, units that still have pretty high AP costs that would benefit, because we can only have one copy of Bells. This is just one of the best TMRs in the game, hands down, period. If Celeste was just one of the best kits in the game, this unit has one of the best TMRs, period. You're going to want to get this thing eventually. Other than that, his not much else to say about that. Taking a look at his mastery ability, decreases his chance of being targeted by 3. Not that much, but does mean that he is not going to be a central target for the enemy right from the start. And decreased skill activation time by 300, which basically means most of his abilities are going to be instant cast, which is nice. Now, taking a look, as we can see here, the breakdown of his stats with this build, which is very heavily on magic. We can see he's very good against wind, very good against lightning, not bad against slash and magic. Nothing really that incredible. But shooting is a problem, fist is a big problem, and spear is a big problem. And Raldor has not gotten his EX yet, which could be an interesting and very possible counter. There just doesn't exist that much strike resistance right now. But even then, he's not just innately really a defensive character just from looking at his resistances, and that could be a problem. Not only that, but status effect wise, there's a lot of scary stuff here. If you look at this potential of being slowed, poisoned, blinded, charmed, stopped, and if we think about a natural other counter to this unit, Rain. Rain is actually a really, really good counter. I'm not even going to mention Celeste, besides obviously a few times, but I think that Rain could just be a really good counter, because if you slow this guy, it effectively reduces his how much he can do. But yeah, it would be something to really think about, just that this guy kind of has a good counter already, and he is going up against the fire element, which still to this day on the JP side is just really good. And this is where I'll mention the others. Setia is a natural counter to him. I think, Christmas Macherie. I think even Mont, just for being a potential defensive if you build him a little more magical. This character, I think, has a uphill battle. So even though he has really good stats and probably is going to be amazing for just smashing the amount of win teams out there, he does have a very glaring weakness, and I think it will be fairly easy to keep him in check, provided that there are good fire teams out there, which there are. Defense and spirit-wise, stats are impressive. Not much else to say about that. So let's get into his sub-jobs and main jobs. So sub is Arithmetician and Scholar. Let's get the one that I think is actually kind of a disappointment right out of the way. Not a ton, but it is a disappointment. So first one to talk about is Scholar. He has the defense and debuff increase. That's good for just keeping him alive more. He has a ranged single attack. He also has a ranged attack that can decrease attack. He can restore CT and decrease his CT casting time. And he also can increase ice attack for allies, which is good, because as we're going to talk about later, the main part of his kit in his main job does have an ice debuff. And that is also the evocation and single target resistance, but he didn't get Scholar's big AoE and self-heal, which is, I'm not going to mince words, really disappointing. It is essentially the really defensive part of Scholar's kit, and that's not innately bad, but let's face it, when we're thinking about Rule or any Scholar, when they have the large AoE that heals themselves, it's just really good. So a little disappointed to see that's not there. Next up is Arithmetician. Now, here's the really interesting thing here about Arithmetician. He does have a lot of the damage abilities. What he doesn't have is almost any of the healing abilities. He only has a single target heal. Other than that, he basically has the AoE damage abilities, the AoE disable, the average CT on targets within range, and the another damage one that's a large AoE, but he just didn't get healing. And I'm just double reading this because this is the biggest surprise in his kit. I know that he has a large AoE heal in the main part of his kit, but I was kind of expecting him to have a couple of extra heals, at least AoE, so he could really be a kind of healer. And that's the story here. Looking at his the two subs, both Arithmetician and Scholar, I have to say, I'm just kind of incredibly underwhelmed. They both have utility. Arithmetician is taking him more of a DPS route, where Scholar is essentially feeling a lot more like a support and survivability route, and both of those are interesting. But I have to tell you, this is one unit where I think you're probably never, most of the time, going to be running the sub job, and that's because of these. These two abilities are just really good. The first ability, as you can see, is it's an X AoE, which is interesting. We don't see too many of those, and it could potentially be problematic for the enemy, or beneficial. But 180 modifier that, well, here we go. 25% chance to inflict frostbite for 3 turns, increase the chance by 20% if one of the following effects is happening, which is haste for target. So if the enemy has any kind of a haste, they have a higher chance of being frostbitten, and we know frostbite is just a really big, good status effect. So just a really strong case already for running this. He is a pretty big anti-haste counter, and this is an AoE, 3 uses at only 28 AP to get a frostbite effect on your enemy. It's really strong. And then there's this one. This one is just decrease AP for targets by 30 with decrease CT by 20 for targets. This is just really nasty. We just saw Locke get an AP drain. This thing is essentially more effective. I mean, it's costing him AP, and it's not regenerating him AP, but it is decreasing the enemy by more than what he's losing. And it could, maybe be used a little bit on bosses. It could just, it decreases the enemy's chance of targeting. I think the sub part of this guy's kit, of his main job, is just really good. I think it's arguably better, because while Arithmetician is nice for giving him some large AoEs without height resistance, and that's going to be very good for farming. Let me just say, this character is definitely going to be an amazing farm character, as we'll talk about in a little bit. Scholar gives him a defense, but boy, for PvP and PvE, I really like just giving him these this thing and kind of just seeing how the enemy gets screwed over by it. Woof. Alright, main attack that he has is just a damage attack, not really all that interesting, so we'll talk about something else next. This one is definitely more interesting. It is a increase magic by 40% for 3 turns, grant, protect, and shell. Gives him more survivability, really nice, and also powers up his attack. Now, this is the ability we knew about earlier, and boy is it good. Even into his EX, we're talking about a restore of HP of a 210 mod. For 38 TP, 3 uses, that's insanely good. Nothing about this ability is bad per se, and once he gets into EX, he's also restoring 15 AP for allies too. Very strong heal. However, considering that I was thinking that this was going to be more of a healer, I just want to say I'm a little bit disappointed. This is his best and basically only AoE heal in his kit. He doesn't have any other AoE heals, he doesn't have status affliction kind of protection, and not that I was necessarily thinking it, but I kind of was hoping this character to be a little bit more of a healer, because the Warrior of Crystals don't have a dedicated healer at this point. And this kind of seemed where it was going, but no. So this is strong. This is very strong. But I kind of wish he had another AoE heal somewhere. Looking at his next ability, this is a single target one that decreases ice resistance for 40% for 3 turns with a 220 mod. This essentially replaces Medina for the most part in any content where you just want to run ice against a single boss. Obviously Medina has her AoE, which is really good on her limit burst, but this is just an on-demand ability that you have 3 casts of that will just be, I feel like, a kind of essential thing for ice teams who just want to smash a boss. Next up, Buffability grants haste 42% for 3 turns for the ally that he's targeted and himself. He can use this. Oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong one. Where is it? No, not that. This one. That's the one. 26 TP. I mean, a TP user that's generating AP gives haste for himself, haste for another. It's just really good. There's nothing else to say here. I think it's crazy good, and I kind of want to see how good it could be in the future. Scrolling down, his last ability and job level 25 increases his spirit penetration by 40 for 3 turns. That's going to be really important for him because, as we've discussed, he doesn't have a ton in his kit for spirit penetration outside of his weapon, so this is a big generator. So this character getting up to level 25, I would say, is pretty essential because you need he needs more sources of magic resistant penetration and spirit penetration, because again, Rain could just shut him down, Celeste could shut him down. And without that, without job level 25, I don't think you want to run this guy in PvP. But it is a 220 mod. It is a massive AoE. He gets 2 casts of this, and it'll be pretty much instant cast with, his cost debuff, so really good. And then we're just going to take a look at his supports. For Scholar, he got defense up and accuracy up. Other one is skill activation down. Taking a look at his Arithmetician, that's the level modifier essentially. And his main job ended up getting 2 abilities. Let's see if I can get the right one first. This is just a straight 30% magic boost. Really boring, but really good, I guess, if you can get the spirit penetration on him. And as for the other one, spirit up and healing power up, as well as AoE resistance once he gets into his EX. So yeah, we need to talk about his limit burst, and of course this is the point where we come to the point of the show where we get to show off the limit burst. So this is an AoE, it's 100% hit chance, which is really nice because it's essentially going to really screw wind evasion over, which is something that I have not been liking too terribly much. It also, it's dealing damage as well. It's got a 63 AP cost, so it's slightly expensive. And just taking a look at its added effect that it gives to him, reduces the physical damage taken by 50% for 3 times to self. So it gives him a barrier, but this is the only use that he gets of it. After that, you're essentially on your own. So Beris is what I would call a very interesting, I want to call him a mixed bag, and that might be a little unfair for a couple of reasons. Ooh, excuse me. First of all, while I think that his stats are absolutely insane, like even if we put him in a party by himself without any other sources, he's still about 1600 magic and about 6200 HP. His kit works really well to either keep him alive, dealing damage, or farming effectively. All of those things are really good. And because he has some defense and everything, and he has some AoE heals, he's going to be really good. He also has a ton of support, which will be great in multiple different game modes and everything like that. But I have to say, I think that the easy counter already exists to him. I think that in general, if we were looking at this character against, a fire elemental character, I think we're going to end up seeing just him potentially really, really losing out, potentially pretty hard. And we're just going to bring in a couple of characters to finish off this video. We also want a... oh, excuse me. Well, that's staying. We're also going to bring in Helena just in case. So just to see what our performance looks like. Just going to go this, we're going to go this, and we'll throw this into why not, and we'll take it off auto so that we can get an idea of how good this character is and what his AI prefers to do. Going to be a longer video today, but hey, Warrior of Crystals are definitely worth a deep dive. Alright, so as we can first see, we can see the order that's going on here. Helena looks like she is getting the first bout, so that's interesting. Next up we have Seti here, and we're just going to take a little bit of a peek of what we could do to this guy. We're obviously not super interested in killing him, but we're also curious about how much damage that we are able to do to this guy. With another Warrior of Crystal, and naturally the one that just kind of counters him, I think, essentially the most. But yeah, got a little bit of an idea there. Now we're just going to go in and start hitting, and immediately you can tell this guy is just super high DPS. If we were to just look at some of the abilities that he is able to cast right here, damn good range on his ability. We're looking at about only 36% on this, which I think is a little low, but all of his DPS is incredibly high. And I'm just wondering if we can find the... Let's just see what his heal is looking like. We got this AP cost reducer. That's pretty cool. Pretty damn impressive healing power. A little bit less on him. He's definitely getting a bigger heal, but really quite good. So let's do this really quickly. And I guess we'll turn on animations now that we've already got into this. Let's just go to options and I'll slow down for you, Globalers, so you can actually see. Alright, so next up, let's just see. So he's got his limit burst running now, so this is kind of the thing I'm curious. As you can see, we're getting less and less damage on this guy. Seti is still doing a good amount of damage, but as you can see, the introduction of his limit burst is really doing a lot. Also can be potentially hit by some of those status effects that she is capable of doing. Don't worry, Helena is strong enough to take it. Alright, so let's see what his AI does if we let him. I mean, we're not gonna, you know, do unto others as they would do unto you, right? Oh yeah, and I guess I forgot to talk about his counters, so let's talk about that really quickly. His, the only thing that's really of note, because we know all about the counters for the other jobs currently, his new counter is basically just an extended range by one counter that if he gets hit, he will do damage back and restore some of the HP. So a little bit like a dragon. So let's see how long his casting time here is. Really cool animation there, really like it, but yeah, he's definitely, could take some pain. As we can see here, Black Witch Helena using her limit burst is also quite able to do a fair amount of damage. Remember that from his limit burst, he's only protected against physical attacks, not against magical, so if any enemy has some good spirit penetration and some good magic resistance, they can do a fair amount. Don't worry everyone, it's all part of the plan. And also really quickly, something else that I'm noting that I'm not too terribly crazy about is the fact that he is effectively has a casting time on his heal. One of the benefits of the Arithmetician heal is that it is just instant, which is always just really good. Shoutouts to this limit burst because it's just awesome. We got fire and ice rocking in this video. Now, far away from the enemy, what's he going to do? Is he going to buff us? Is he going to heal? Is he going to do something else? He might actually attack our guys because we hit him. So yeah, he seems, just from this initial run, I can tell that he is his AI is interested in basically doing DPS a lot more. I'm curious about how much more it is, whether he is really not doing his support. This makes me a little more concerned about him. He has such high range on his abilities, and he's very capable of killing enemies, so that makes him a much higher farmer, but potentially not as good of a buffer. So interesting to see. Really nice stats and everything, but I think the counters already exist to him. Great unit to get, fantastic TMR, but might be this is one that I would chalk up to your preference and what your account needs. Ice magic is not my favorite thing, but I don't know, he's probably pretty close to another Dark Witch Helena type farmer who could just be good there, and he's definitely going to be a critical unit for anybody who loves ice units. So there you go, my look on Beris. I think he's going to be really good. Just curious about, just getting more testing in and seeing really where his AI prioritizes and where his AI doesn't. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of this unit in the comments. Would you pull super hard for him? No euphemisms. Anyway, I'm Bosch von Ronsenberg of Dalmasca. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.